From Montgomery to Ferguson. This picture introduces the concept of a slogan turned into a new civil rights movement. The rallying cry of a movement against racism and police brutality. A rising slogan spread across the U.S. in its brilliant simplicity. Behind this slogan is a proliferation of new organizations composed of engaged millennial activists of color. Yes, color. The same color that has been a target for hate and discrimination is becoming a catalyst for freedom in a new generation. On one hand, it is an effort to address the lack of civil rights protections for African Americans. But there's a lot more to this issue, and we're not just looking for a settlement. It's not just about police brutality. It's about systems in place that devalue black lives in different aspects. For example, the prison industrial complex, economic and voting rights, food supply, limited opportunities leaves us less likely to survive. It's an explosion of frustrations built up for many years of segregation. Activism that stands firmly on the shoulders of movements that came before us to make our voices loud and clear so they can no longer ignore us. Black Lives Matter is an epidemic genre, evocative words and images used to ignite a revolution. Through social media, we connected with the world and inspired a global movement. Palestinian activists protest for cooperation between the Israeli state and the U.S. Urban Police Department. Inspired by Ferguson, another movement protesting violence against indigenous people in the U.S. known as Native Lives Matter became prominent. The movement not only emphasizes the need for black liberation, but the need for equality for both genders and all races. From a symbolic perspective, we agree to the visions of ourselves created by those before us who paved the way. Leaders like Dr. King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and the list goes on even to this day. From Mike Brown to Trayvon Martin, from 200,000 to the Million Man March in Washington. But there are those who counter the slogan, misunderstanding the message. It's true that all lives matter, but take a look at it from a different perspective. According to the justice system, blacks are more likely to be killed by police and twice as likely as whites to be killed while unarmed. Blacks are more likely to be stopped and frisked for drug use and even serve a longer sentence than whites for the use of drugs. So it's not that all lives don't matter, it's that black lives don't matter as much, and they should. So in conclusion, seeking racial justice in this era requires a new civil rights. What began in the 1960s is the same reason why we continue to fight. Whereas the civil rights movement achieved its political victories, we now confront the role of neoliberalism in our economic and political policies. Being devalued to a permanent marginalization as an African American majority, no longer treated as viable consumers, but rather as surplus humanity. So then, Black Lives Matter and the fight for freedom has become necessary, a transformative social movement rooted in history.
I think what it isn't is positioning of black people as better than or more important than. I think it's looking at black life and also the quality of black life. I think that it is a belief system that challenges the idea that black people are inherently less human or less valuable than anyone else. I think it's looking at mass incarceration beyond incarceration and beyond police brutality. I think it's looking at housing. I think it's looking at employment and disenfranchisement, homelessness, poverty, marginalization. It's a movement that is about politics, that's about liberation. I think it's a declaration, I think it's a cry, I think it's an intervention, and I think that it is a tool for transformation. And it's not about outrage, it's about responsibility, and I think everyone is implied in that.